From chapter 1 of Amy Jack Garvey's compilation of her husband's writings, she attributes the following statement to him. Quote, "History is the landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." With me today, an historian who concurs, Kabwende King Kisoke, on Heritage Explored. Welcome to Heritage Explored. My name is your host on this show and a Masters of Architecture student at the University of where I'm carrying out some research into the nation of today's discussion, my nation of origin, the Baluba nation of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thanks for tuning in with us. You're definitely in for a treat. You're listening to the beginning of a series of talks on the Baluba nation. This first episode will begin by exploring the origins of the nation with a particular focus on one of their most unassuming and mysterious artifacts which they've left behind, the Lukasa. Without further ado, joining me to discuss the nation's overall history and its born in Bukunga to parents of Baluba origin from the Olomami province, Kabongo territory of the Baluba Kalanga tribe. He was raised in the nation's heartland until about the age of 13, before moving to Tanzania, where he completed his high school education. He then proceeded to where he completed a degree in international affairs before undergoing a master's in African history, specializing in Central and Southern African history at the University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria in Spain. And now he's currently undergoing a pre-doctoral master's research at Université Libre de Bruxelles in Belgium. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Kyenge has published 3 books on African history and the philosophy of Pan-Africanism based on Marcus Garvey and the late Professor Nyosiri Kalala-Omotunde. And importantly for this discussion today, he is also a member of the Mbudie Secret Society of Baluba Nation, specifically the Kabongo branch, where he has completed 5 of the 7 years of initiation into the Brotherhood. Thank you, Kyenge, for joining me today.
Good to be with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Kyenge, for joining me today.
Good to be with you.
Likewise. I'm so glad to have you on. Kyenge and I have been in conversation for quite a while now and have discussed so many really fascinating things about Baluba Nation's history, and particularly the deep heritage the nation has, which has for so long been hidden from the world, or like many sub-Saharan African histories, it has been arguably oversimplified to the point of suffering intellectual inertia. That is to say that it's a done deal. There is nothing more you can find about African histories than what we have already. Would you, Kyenge?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. They write about Africa histories as if there is no culture apart from the mythology. They talk about sorcery, witchcraft, and the ritualistic dance. They don't talk about the political ancients, the inventive, intellectually advanced system which necessity further and deeper research, like more archaeological digs and studies. Economically, they don't even recognize the development and achievement of Africans, apart from those which were introduced to them by Europeans. Tends to suggest that economic advancement did not take place on the continent until they arrived on the scene. Additionally, the Western academia tends to paint sub-Saharan Africa as having no civilization because of the continuous period of warring. For example, we have a book that I can call written by a group of Belgian academia. I can translate in English as Congo in the period of Belgium. In page 120, authors argue that, speaking of the DRC, talking about nations, So they say that there were 400 tribes who were fighting. Say that there were 400 tribes who were fighting all the time, and because of this fighting, they were not able to make a nation. That means there is no nation in Central Africa when the Europeans, or let's say Belgium, came to Central Africa. Then, according to themselves, Belgium came to Central Africa. Then, according to themselves, they came in Africa to put end to the fighting and to bring the so-called civilization.
I agree with you, and we've both seen several other examples of Western books speaking about Africa in this way. The argument from a significant number of the writings of the West about sub-Saharan Africa in particular is that they were disorganized, they had no political structure, no proper culture nor heritage until they, the Europeans, arrived on the continent. Just thinking of the British economist Angus Maddison, he implied, which he wrote in 2007, that up until 1820, there were no nations in sub-Saharan Africa. This region was occupied by primitive hunter-gatherers and subsistence farmers. He added that the only countries of the continent that could have been considered as such and Morocco, and the main export for them were slaves. To his credit, though, on page 227 in the same paragraph, he says, regarding sub-Saharan Africa primarily, that, quote, the rest of the continent was unknown and unexplored, and this comment in context is at best a justification for European ignorance and lack of interest and respect for what that region of the world had to offer. All in all, from the Western perspective, it would seem that all there was to Africa pre-colonization was religious and metaphysical fanaticism, really. Little to no evidence of intellectual or industrial advancement, wars and political disorder. And I don't believe that this is 100% true. I feel it's an overhaul people's history, and I found that I had adopted this way of thinking as I have grown up here under the deficient teaching system, which has little to say about places similar to my own nation of origin. And realizing this, I felt the real need to research more about my own origin as a means of disseminating this information to other children of migrants who felt the same lack of knowledge, either because of language barriers, geographical remoteness, or any other thing for that matter. And the Lukasa, being an architect or a designer, find out more about my origins, and we will find out why as we go on in the show.
Yes, I agree with you. It is important for people from these under-researched and documented nations learn more true and deeper information about their origin, particularly those in the West who have been exposed to accurate and complete information about their stories.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. But just to mention to our listeners at home, all the discussion points touched in this episode of Heritage Explored have been arranged into corresponding timestamps, which you can navigate to, in which have many insightful aspects discussed in each part. So one portion alone is a bite size of knowledge rich enough to pique your interest, and we hope to encourage you to find out more and go on that research journey yourself. With that said, let's get started by giving a little bit of a background to Baluba Nation.
Before we begin, I think it's best if we start by first giving a couple of definitions which we will be using throughout the course of this podcast.
Yes, please do so for us, Kienge. Perhaps we will define other words as we continue at the beginning or even throughout each part or segment of the show. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Word Baluba itself, what the meaning of it?
Right.
And also what we mean when we say Baluba country or Baluba nation. So we should say on the outset that when the European Richard Burton came to Baluba country around Tanganyika Lake in the east of Baluba country, in 1858 he met some fishermen and he asked them who they were. They said Baluba, but he understood it as Luba.
Yes. He misunderstood the word Baluba and he referred to them as Luba instead, even in his writings.
Yes, and unfortunately,
Luba instead, even in his writings.
Yes, and unfortunately, in 1954, the European Scientific and Linguistic Conference in Belgium decided how they would refer to each nation of the colony.
Yes.
When they came to talk about the Baluba people or Baluba nation, the term they decided to use was the word Luba as the superlative form of address.
Right.
Unfortunately, they did all this without asking the people, no considering what the word itself means for the people themselves. Because the word, it means sickness.
That's right. Sickness as an offensive term, right?
Yes, because if I say Aige Iluba, which translated would be he's sick, first of all, in the Luba language, it doesn't make any sense. And the second of all, it will be received as an insult. Luba to refer to the Baluba people as Baluba Richards.
Right, I remember that was the first thing you gently reminded me of when we first started discussing the whole of Baluba nation. So thank you for clarifying that. To the word Baluba itself, it's a polysemic word, so it has multiple meanings, 3 in all. Polysemic word, so it has multiple meanings, 3 in all. Baluba is in the plural. Singular it would be Muluba. So the word Baluba derives from the verb kuluba, which means to be lost, and this verb has 3 meanings or senses. The first is kulubai kujimina, which senses. The first is kulubai kujimina, which refers to someone who gets lost or does not know the right path leading to a right destination. For example, if someone got lost along the way whilst they were coming to university, for instance. And the second sense is kulubai kuilwa, which means to forget something, like forgetting where you placed an item. It could also refer to someone losing sight of a problem, which is to say that they've forgotten about an important idea or fact because they were thinking too much or thinking about something else entirely. This could also refer to someone completely losing their memory, like what could happen when someone has undergone a brain surgery or any other surgery. Luba I kujilula kutupambila. And you have to help me with the Kiluba pronunciation, but yes, Kuluba I kujilula kutupambila. This means to make a theocratic mistake, to break a religious rule or a law or decree, and in the am I right?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, allow me to thank you for your effort for trying to speak Luba. I know that you grew up here in London. Then that is a pleasure for me.
Thank you.
For you to say some words in Luba.
I'm trying.
Yeah, that is right. And to understand which of the 3 senses, the etymological root of the word Baluba, we should consider the origin story of the Baluba people. Then I guess I told you the story. Can you remind me the story what I told you about?
Yes, and you helped me along the way as always. So in Baluba cosmology and in the origin story, there is the super god or the Shakapanga or the great creator, and he created Mikeulu, which we can understand as angels, and then he formed one man called Ilunganshi Mikulu and one woman called Mbuyu Kabumbwe Longo, using the soil and breathing the word into them. And then he placed these 2 people in Bukalanga or paradise. And with them he created all the animals, birds, trees, plants, and the whole world and universe, in fact, yes.
Fantastic. I guess that you didn't forget.
Universe, in fact, yes.
Fantastic. I guess that you didn't forget it. Okay. Yes, the people watching might recognize how similar this sounds to Christian deities.
Yeah.
I remember even you were looking at me like surprised.
Yeah.
But anyone reading the Baluba surprised.
Yeah.
But anyone reading the Baluba account will notice that the first women, which we call Mbuikimwelongo,
right,
was created independent to man, unlike Eve in the Christian account, who was formed from the rainbow of Adam.
Yeah.
Christian account, who was formed from the rainbow of Adam.
Yeah, that's right. Because Mbuyu Kabumbolongo was created independent to Ilunganshi Mikulu, in the Baluba sociology, women have more equality to men than what has been sort of presented to us by Christian civilizations over time.
Yeah, we can say that way. I'll give you an example how it is different between this Christian account.
Right.
We are going to talk about parents in family, for example. Okay, in a Christian account, it's really that the women will have a Baluba society. The women have the same right to inherit of her parents.
Right. Yeah.
It shows how Baluba have equal gender in their society or sociology.
Yeah. As
you said before.
Yeah, equality between the genders. Yeah. I guess even in marriage as well, the man and woman, although they're in marital recognized as two individuals.
Yeah.
When it comes to the chief of the area splitting land, they don't give it to, say, the Ilunga family. They will give it to
a wife,
the wife and the husband in the family. So both of them get a portion of that land.
That is, it's very important because even if you go, the man is the head of house. Mm-hmm. That is the same for Baluba people. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that women, they have the same right as the men. Right. There's no any difference.
The way that the Baluba practice equality between the genders is different, I would say, to how Christian tradition practices equality within the two Genesis stories. Another one that comes to mind is that in the Baluba Genesis story, after creating everything, God forbade both the man and woman from eating from the specific tree, which had both red and black fruit growing from it. But it was the man, Ilunganshi Mikulu, who himself was a serpent or a snake. He decided that it was good to go and eat the fruit anyway. He ate the fruit and asked the first woman, Mboyuki Bumwelongo, to eat the fruit as well. But notably, she refused and told him she wouldn't eat it because God prohibited it. When God came to ask the man if he ate the fruit, he said that he didn't. And as such, he asked the man if he ate the fruit. He said that he didn't. And as such, he sinned twice with his mouth, first by eating the fruit and secondly by lying to God. And it's because of this, Baluba philosophy actually proposes that humans can only sin by their mouths. They can't sin with their hands, their heart, their eyes, minds. Sin only comes out of the mouth. So sin with their hands, their heart, their eyes, minds. Sin only comes out of the mouth. So is that a right way of describing it? Because I don't know whether I fully understand what I've been describing, to be honest with you.
You are right. I agree with you in that way. And this is the reason why the meaning of Baluba first sense of the three senses of the verb. Of the verb kuluba. Yeah. Because today in some books, people wrote that we are called Baluba because our forefather lost the physical roots. Which is not true.
Don't they say that the Baluba... they're called Baluba because he was on a journey
and he found some way, he stayed there and he found his family. So now we have our nation, which is not true. Coming to what you told me, who went himself and he ate a tree. Mm-hmm. The difference in the Christian account is a woman who ate the tree. Yes. Not man. Yeah. There is a Kiluba proverb, which is in Kiluba so that you can...
please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Muluba ulubanga mukanwa kakaluba kashinda nashake kavunde wikalaula kaikwabo. Right. Which can translate it in English. I will try to do it. Muluba can make mistake in words of mouth, stray on the path. Even if it was obliterated, he would track it down and return to the city of his fathers. It means that Muluba will never lost his way from his fatherland. So this to say that Baluba can never mean someone who has lost their way physical. I mean
their physical.
For example, I'm here in London. I will not lost my way from your house. I'm Muluba. I will never lost my way.
Wait. You mean even if you're in London here, you can lose your path, but you will never lose your.
As a Muluba guy, I guess.
But you will never lose your.
As a Muluba guy, I guess truly it's not to be proud. Okay. Muluba will never forget where he stepped his foot.
Okay.
Even if I lost here, I will do whatever I can. Or maybe you can hand my eyes.
Yeah, cover your eyes. Yeah.
Cover my eyes. But if you let me my eyes.
Yeah, cover your eyes. Yeah.
Cover my eyes. But if you let me go.
Yeah.
I will never lose myself. That is all me. Every Muluba, because that is in our sense.
Okay, we have good geographical sense.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So the word Baluba then means law of God, right?
Yes.
Someone who's committed a theocratic mistake. Because after eating the fruit, God punished the man by sending him out of paradise and bringing him pain, decay, and death to his body. And then all of his descendants, would you say they inherited the punishment from their father?
We can talk, yes. Mm-hmm. Because in our sociology or our consciousness, we think that Ilunga didn't pass his sin to his children.
Okay, he didn't pass the sin to his
according to Baluba.
There is no original sin.
But why are we dying if we didn't inherit his sin?
Yeah.
We are dying because according to God, we use what we call the collective responsibility.
Okay.
Your brother, your sister are responsible of what you did, and they will be punished as were you.
Okay. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So the man and the women.
Okay. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So the man and the women Ilunga Shemikulo and Mbuikumbolongo propagated the earth. The people in the heartland at the time were referred to as Bagalanga, which means
the civilized, right?
Civilized. They continue to keep their relationship with God until the time of civilized. They continue to keep their relationship with God until the time of Kalubanganga, who decided to forsake God and worship other spirits. And this is the reason why we are called Baluba and we are dying.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right, interesting. So Kalubanganga is actually one of the 6 sons of the historical forefather, who were 6 sons, and from those 6 we get the 9 kingdoms of Baluba Nation before the empire's unification. So the 9 tribes in Baluba Nation that makes up Baluba Nation.
Yeah, Bazamishibo have 6 children. Mm-hmm. From there, we have formed a tribe,
right?
Kalanga tribe. We call it Baluba Kalanga because the Kalanga and the son of Bazamishibo.
Yeah.
We have Baluba,
and we're both from
Kalanga people.
Kalanga
tribe.
Okay.
So you have to notice that in some books that you are going to read, they will present to us ethnic difference, which is not true.
Okay. So they're all Baluba.
Yeah. They are tribe difference because they are from the brothers.
Okay.
Each organized himself. So we have 9 kingdom before the unification.
Right.
So now, where was Bazamishi? Where he's from?
Where is he from? Yeah.
We know his city is called Kashikulu.
Okay.
It is in Kabong territory. The origin in Kabong in the Buluba land.
Yeah.
And if you go far,
can you just tell me like the extent of Buluba country, like where
the region where we can find
it covers? Yes.
Okay, in our day, Buluba land go far. In the north, we have Mulongoi and the Konda River. In the northeast and in northwest, we have the meeting of 2 rivers. We call it Luilu and Lubilanji.
Yeah.
In the east, we have Lake Tanganyika. In the south, we have the territory we call Bukanda. And in the southeast, we have the Zambia's border with DRC. And the natural one, we have Lake. And in southwest, we have Lubilanji, and the west we have Lubilanji also. And
Lubilanji is a river.
Yeah. It is 500,000.
That's 500,000 kilometers squared, right?
Yeah. The largest in DRC, and this area have only one ethnic that we call Baluba. West to the east, we just speak one language, that is Kiluba.
Oh wow!
So imagine yourself
how big it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Amazing stuff. Now, these different kingdoms in Baluba Nation were separated and governed themselves as independent until unification under themselves as independent until unification under the first formally recognized king, who is Kongolo Mwamba, right?
According in the majority, is Kongolo Mwamba. But frankly speaking, he was not.
Okay.
Yeah, if you learn me again to talk it. Frankly speaking, he was not.
Okay.
Yeah, if you learn me again to talk it a lot bit about it. The first person who gave the idea of unification of Baluba was Mamba Kalenga Masanza.
Right.
From Kalanga tribe. Okay, so for him he thought that by using by Kalanga tribe. Okay, so for him he thought that by using by dialogue, he can convince everyone, but most of them they didn't. Okay, they didn't accept it because everyone wanted to be a chief. So after that, when he passed away, his nephew a chief. So after that, when he passed away, his nephew called Kongolo Mwamba. He was a soldier. Okay. He was a general of Kalenga Masanza, and he took power by force. He went to Kalunde people. First of all, he discussed with them, but when they wanted to not to accept, he used force.
Wasn't the unification complete through Kasongo Bonswe?
No. Unification finished with Irene Ilunga. So when Kasongo Bonswe came in power, introduced the federation system in the empire, meaning that it's
their own king.
Yeah. The king, but they recognize the Kasongo as the higher king.
Okay.
But Kasongo doesn't have any right to interfere to the to internal affairs of the each kingdom.
After Kasongo Bons, the political state between 1444 and 1500, basically, the nation grew, and it grew into an empire until about the latter parts of 1700s, with Kumwimba Ngombe, the king Kumwimba Ngombe, coming in. After his rule, we had a decline, didn't we? 1870. That was before the Belgians
coming.
That was before Europeans, because the English were first to come into the country.
The decline of Baluba Empire is not the fault of Europeans; it's internal affairs.
And because the situation in the Baluba nation or Baluba country was bad, it made it too weak for the Europeans to come in and take.
When they came in power,
the last king during unification,
when the king died in 1888, the two princes from our region, they divided the empire in two parties. They started fighting until the coming of Belgium in 1911. In 1911, Belgium have decided to destroy the empire. They divided. They created more than 25 kingdoms.
Oh, they created 25 kingdoms?
Yeah.
No way.
But even that, for people, right now we have just the two great king or four that we recognize: Kabongo, Kasonganyembo, King Konja, and King or four that we recognize: Kabongo, Kasonganyembo, King Konja, and the Mutum.
Right.
But every chief now, since the coming of Belgium in 1911, its region have his own kingdom or chefferie, or to in French.
Oh wow! But no, thank you, Kengi, for just going over all of that history, because I think this was important to go through, and we can discuss some more in the next part of the show after the break. Welcome back to Heritage Explored with me and my guest Kabwende Kienge Kisoke. Before the break, we explored the meaning of the word Baluba and the ancient Baluba origin account to which the word is attached, before relaying a historical overview of this nation, the growth of the nation into an empire, and the dissolution of the empire and nation just before colonization of Baluba country by King Leopold II of Belgium. In this segment of our talk, we'll be looking at the Baluba nation's history keepers, men of memory, the Mbuje Secret Brotherhood, or the Mbuje Secret Society. King is selectively modified and manipulated by so-called guardians of history. This to me doesn't sound too far away from my understanding of the Mbuje Society. Is this an accurate understanding of this political institution?
Yes, to an extent. Let's give a little bit of background on the Mbuje Society as a whole. This will help me make my point more clear. So the Mbuje get to the monarchy, chief and the dignitary of Baluba nation. In fact, in ancient times, all members of the political classes were required to be a part of the Mbuje for them to hold office, undergoing 7 years of initiation, which took place at the Mbuje school known as Inyengele. A member of the brotherhood is called Mbudi, and in plural it Bambudi, and in plural it Bambuje. It's composed of both women and men, and still does today.
Right. Wasn't it the founder was a woman, Inabanza, the turtle lady, I recall reading in Mary Roberts' book?
Yeah, but it's not nearly know that he was a woman.
Okay.
But we know that the beginning of it, the people who decided to have it, they were men. Because you have to man.
Okay.
But we know that the beginning of it, the people who decided to have it, they were men. Because you have to remember that the Mbuje Brotherhood started when Alwanganga stopped obeying God's direction and started worshipping other forces,
other spirits.
A group of Baluba decided that we must not follow Alwanganga. So we must stay close to our God by doing what they call Alwanganga. So we must stay close to our God by doing what they call Gishira Kavijo, Gishira Kavankam.
Okay.
So as Alwanga was a chief in our territory in Kabong, he started to persecute those people.
Right.
Those people have no choice than to go in the forest to hunt themselves.
Right.
So when those people started meeting between themselves, they hold a place in Yengele.
Okay.
And in that situation came in power during the unification.
So the situation switched.
Yeah.
So it went from Alwanga
members who were called
Brotherhood to the Mbuje Brotherhood.
Yeah.
You're saying it was when Kongolomamba came into power that the Mbuje now became the leading brotherhood?
Yeah, when Kongolomamba came in power, as he was a Mbuje member, those Mbuje have led the country. So they encouraging people to unification.
Right.
They have social power with religion power with Bitobo, the priest.
Yeah.
They're working together.
Yeah.
So when they come in power, they started persecuting Bulumbu, and the Bulumbu started to go to the forest.
Right.
Yeah. So when Belgium came, they found that Mbuje were the king of Luba resistance.
Yeah.
The favorites,
the Bulumbu. They basically made up that the Bulumbu can now persecute the Mbuje again.
So that they are able to control Mbuje, to control all the Baluba's country. The nation.
And now, so I know that every king has to be part of the Mbuje for them to be a king.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone in any position of importance has to be a member of Mbuje.
From the king and all ministers, the school of Mbuje. You can't occupy any place in our society without passing through Mbuje Brotherhood. It's impossible.
And now we call it a school of the Mbuje. Yeah. And sometimes we just call it an institution, and sometimes we just call it a brotherhood.
That is in the foreign language. Okay. Because if you go to Kilo, it's just say
Bambuje.
It is an institution in the case because they are leading our land, our country. The person who is in power, Mulopwe, the king, he is symbolic.
Okay, he's
not taking decision. The people who took decision are Mbuje members. Don't understand? They have power to remove him in power.
So there's somebody heading that.
His name is Nyembo.
Nyembo, okay.
Yeah, and he has more power than the king.
Because he makes the final say, effectively.
So it is cool because he has more power than the king.
Because he makes the final say, effectively.
So it is cool because when you are there, you learn Baluba geography and our neighbors geography. You learn Baluba history, chemistry and physics.
Okay.
You learn astrology, spirituality, writing. Under writing, we will talk about it.
Yeah.
Political science, we learn it too. So it is a school because it's a formation there. But initiation, so it is a school because it's a formation there. But initiation institution, that is the foreigner interpretation.
Okay.
Because there is no in French or in English the word Mbuje.
No.
This is the Muluba's invention. We can't find the word Mbuje. Even Mulopwe. Mulopwe doesn't have any equivalence in English or in French.
We understand it as king.
Yeah, but he's not a king because we have the word king in our language.
That's one of the difficulties of doing research like this, because we're talking about an area where, well, not we, me. I'm researching into an area I don't fully know, even though I am from there. I don't fully know much about it. So it's sometimes hard to get a right translation of these words. And if you know that about Bulohwe, I will understand it in the context of king, because that's how that word has been defined in English. But you would obviously understand it differently because you know the nuances of that word with the Kiluba context.
Yeah.
It makes it hard for a foreigner, even I'm a foreigner, to come and research and be sure that they've arrived to the right interpretation of the information.
Europeans, researchers, when they go to Baluba, they don't understand first the concept of each word in Kiluba.
The Kiluba language itself is very intricate.
Yeah, it's a rich language.
Yeah.
As them, they don't understand the concept. They resume everything to one word or in the comprehension of Europeans. I will give you an example. Talking about myth, okay, myth and storytelling. In Kiluba, we have manga, we have ensango, we have mikoyo. Each word means different things. Lusango is what happened in East. Mikoyo is like storytelling that didn't happen in the past.
Yeah.
But we used to teach.
Like a parable. Like a parable.
Yeah, like parable. Lusango is the thing which happened in our history.
Okay, it's fact. It's
fact.
Historical fact. Yeah.
Yes. So we have myths, something that is imaginary, that is like manga ya ngaluilo yantand.
Okay.
The myth of the beginning of the world.
Okay.
You will never hear in the mouth of some elder who told you of the world.
Okay.
You will never hear in the mouth of some elder who told you manga ya Nkongolo Mwamba. Never.
No.
We talk about Lusango lwa Nkongolo Mwamba.
Right, which means the history of Kongolo Mwamba.
But Europeans,
not the myth of Kongolo Mwamba. Okay.
But Europeans think that manga, Lusango, because it's
the same thing.
It's the same things, and that is like Semitic Sango because
it's the same thing.
It's the same things, and that is like Semitic vocabulary synonym of other you don't understand?
In the European books, most of them see Kongolo Mwamba, who is the first official king of Baluba nation. They see him as a mythical character, whereas all the Baluba and all of them Mbudye see him as a hero
who live until today.
Until today, yeah.
His family had. If you go to Kisula, the name Kisula because the person who built the city was a son of Nkongolo. His name was Kisula Nkongolo.
Fantastic. Okay.
So Bambudye also we talking about it's a compromise for women and men, and it still does until today. The brotherhood is ordered in Nyembo at the top. Then the vice or assistant to the president called Kamaji. Following them is the councillor Kikungulu Shambuje, then the judge Shikala, the steward Inabanza, then the initiator in charge of teaching the new initiate, then the senior and the junior assistant judge called Senga and Mululi. Following this were untitled Mbudye initiated. The society was broken into branches with a major conference of members being held every year until now. Since the 1950s, the extent of their political influence weakened in most parts of Baluba country, but it is still very much a part of the area outside the major towns and cities. The exact year of the establishment of the brotherhood is unknown, but transmission of Baluba history recalls that the Mbudye brotherhood existed long before the epic character of Nkongolo Mwamba and Irene Ilunga, who we know were around between 750 to 1850 after Jesus.
So arguably it's the nation's oldest institution.
Yes, absolutely. We can say even as old as the monarchy, because it is also the Mbudye who would choose which king would come in power. When researching, you often find that many Western writers would say that the Mbudye brother. Researching, you often find that many Western writers would say that the Mbudye brotherhood was established after the reign of Irene Ilunga between 800 to 830, like in the book of Reef, for example, Rainbow and the King. But this is just wrong. Since again, all oral and Rainbow and the King, but this is just wrong. Since again, all oral and Baluba's own written histories in the Lukasalwa Nkunda record that the king Kongolo Mwamba and the Mamba Masanza, who both predate Kalala Ilunga, were members of the brotherhood.
Interesting. To the role of the Mbudye members, Doctors Mary and Alan Roberts, in their book Memory, Luba Art and the Making of History, they note that the role of the Mbudye were varied in nature, with different Baluba groups of different regions in Baluba country they encountered, relaying a modified account of what the brotherhood actually actually at the beginning of my research, because my two different uncles told me two different things about the Mbudye. One said they were members of the elite royal military responsible for protecting the monarchy, but the other explained that they were performers in the royal court. So there is a great sense of ambiguity around the brotherhood, which you verify the information. What is it that we can trust in the definition?
What your uncles told you is true. They didn't lie to you.
Okay.
And what Mary wrote in this book is also true.
Okay.
So Mbudye is an institution. It controls everything. Okay, to keep peace in the city,
right?
And they were charged to protect a king. King must be protected, and all people who can have trust. It was his member. His member will never betray him.
Okay.
So Mbudye people truly, and today, for example, if you go to Kabongo, our king today is protected by Mbudye member. About military, yes, they were. You can't be a responsibility of army if you are not a member. If even judgment, before to be judged in Bulo, you must be Mbudye. So Mbudye control everything. For dancing, yes, you see Mbudye like sing everything. For dancing, yes, you see Mbudye like a singer.
Okay.
Like a singer who is singing and he have his people.
So they play really varied roles.
Yeah, you see. How can it's like Queen Elizabeth. He controls everything here, but you can't see him. You just see his people.
Yeah.
the people here, but you can't see him. You just see his people.
Yeah.
The people, they do things in her name.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you understand? So Mbudi is an institution, it controls everything. Therefore, I told you, when Europeans wanted to control our land, the first of all, they want to defend Mbudi membership, because Mbudi control everything. They have a role of political role. A role too. About diplomats, most of them were women.
Okay, the diplomats were women.
Yeah, most of them. So there is no any confusion here.
Okay.
What they told you is true, because there was a society who was control everything.
Yeah.
Part of the reason behind the variants in answer regarding the Mbuje role is due to the who in antiquity were not allowed to know much about them, and they still aren't even today. A strategy of ambiguity was used to prevent the people from knowing the truth. Any member who exposed the secret of the brotherhood was excommunicated and punished. So to ensure ambiguity and to protect the brotherhood exercised the privilege of defining what truth was known by the people of the land. The practice of the selective revelation and the modification of the truth by the ruling bodies was done in almost all civilization across history, and it is still being practiced today. So unfair to disregard the history of a people because of it being potentially modified, because that would oblige us to reject all histories as such.
What would you say to the critic that would respond to that statement by saying, how can we be confident that the information given to us by Mbuje is true if we're not allowed to know any of the context behind the archives that they have? We're not allowed to even have images of these things.
Okay. Thank you for your question, okay? But allow me to tell that what you have to remember is that when Mbuje gives you information, they always give you true information, even if it is modified or incomplete. I will illustrate it. For example, Mbuje will tell you that the brotherhood has their own way of writing, their own writing script. As a Western, you would ask writing, their own writing script. As a Western, you would ask, show me the proof, and you would wait for a proof that look like A, B, C, D. But the Mbuje will not give you A, B, C, D. Instead, they will give you an image or a pictograph without even explaining what that pictograph means. Having received this seemingly confusing information, as a Western academic, you will not consider this as proof at all, and you would return to US or Belgium or wherever and write in your paper that the Baluba do not have a writing. If they do, to justify your rejection of histories foreign to you, you would be inclined to blame secret societies like the Mbuje and their practice of ambiguity and non-disclosure.
How telling. And what a helpful illustration to make about A, B, C, D and all of that, because it sets discussion, which was the stimulant of this show, the Lukasa or Nkasa in plural.
Absolutely. So Mbuje in antiquity and today were in charge of recording and archiving the major event that took place in Baluba society.
And to assist them in recording all these histories and events, they use the Lukasa.
That's right, and they use it by Mbuje even today, Lukasa Lwakunda and Lukasa Lwakabemba.
Yes, I came to know generally about the Lukasa Lwakabemba and how it works on the system of mnemonics, which in and of itself is genius, as Dr. Alan Roberts remarked in a conversation him and I had, but there was no proper explanation of the Lukasa Lwankunda. How can you elaborate?
Yes, because it was only last summer that the Brotherhood agreed to the information being made public. It took me 3 years to persuade them, on top of the many years of other Baluba scholars before me begging them to do so.
Right.
So to elaborate, when the Arabs and the Europeans came to believe it, the different African groups they encountered didn't have a writing system of their own.
Right.
And with their vow of secrecy, the Mbuje in the Baluba country didn't explicitly reveal that they did have an alphabet. But they did show them the Kasa with reserved explanation. Unfortunately, since it wasn't, it looked like their expectation. Both Arabs and Europeans received it was just a primitive art form.
Many missionaries also destroyed them and forbade them along with other wooden sculptural artifacts, calling them demonic or satanic. But then it's the same demonic and satanic figurines, amulets, swords, which they flooded their museums and galleries in the West, making them a lot of money even today. I went to the Congo Museum in Tervuren, which they've renamed something like Africa Museum.
Yeah, Central African Museum.
Central Africa Museum. But anyway, so I paid to go see these figurines museum. But anyway, so I paid to go see these figurines, and I wondered how much money they make today on all these artifacts that they hold demonic long ago.
Yeah, it's one among many unfortunate realities that haven't been dealt with by colonization nations like Belgium, France, the US, Netherlands, and many more we can name. Nonetheless, the Lukasa Lwankunda, which was shown to them, is wooden board used to write or convey writing information using the unique Baluba alphabet and other.
What would you call the alphabet itself?
It's Malembo Akiluba.
Malembo Akiluba, yeah.
This is the alphabet of Kiluba.
The alphabet of Kiluba, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you know about Egypt's history.
Yes.
You see, Egyptians, they have
hieroglyphics.
But they have two systems of writing.
Yeah.
Some all for system.
Right.
And we have another writing system that is allowed to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Baluba also.
Yeah, in the Baluba we have that.
We have the scripture for Butobo, priest, and for Mbuje, the writing system for Butobo. Mm-hmm. Until no one wants to give
reveal
us
that. Mm-hmm.
But for Mbuje, we have 28 letters. But for Mbuje, we have 28 letters. Mm-hmm. For Butobo, they have more. But globally, there were more than 18 characters for writing. 80. Yeah, 80.
Okay.
But what we used to write a message is 28 letters.
Okay.
Nonsense.
Okay.
Nonetheless, the Lukasa is 28 letters.
Okay.
Nonsense.
Okay.
Nonetheless, the Lukasa Lwankunda, which was alphabet writing in the form of a drawn character, not in Latin. Unlike the draw character of Japanese, for example, it is not syllabary.
Yes, syllabic.
Each letter of the alphabet will be represented by an individual character. A word with 3 letters will have 3 individual characters, and so on and so forth. This type of Nkasa were used to teach Mbudie initiate about the brotherhood and the formation of the brotherhood. They were also used to send message between king and chief.
This alphabet was only available to the Mbudie, who formed the literate body of Baluba nation generally, right?
Yes, the rest of the population was illiterate. For the Western mind, this was enough to negate the entire existence of a Baluba writing system. However, I strongly believe this is a hypocritical way of thinking. I will give you an European example. In France, during the 17th century, only 1% of the population could read and write, namely the royal, the nobility, and clergy. The rest of the population was illiterate. But academics don't say that France was illiterate in the 17th century. Use the same logic when it comes to the Baluba nation or other African nations. I'm asking myself that question.
That's a very, very true remark. It just shows the superiority complex in action, really.
Yes, hence the importance of a conversation like this, which reveals stories from the source. I've
actually heard that proverb from my parents. It's like saying better to go to the source than to listen to someone's narration of a story, because a third person story is not always true. I found that this was a particularly helpful advice for me when it came to researching the Lukasa Lwakabemba, the second type of Lukasa. It encouraged me to go and find you and find someone who actually knows about these Lukasa.
Yeah.
Do you mind giving us an introduction into the Lukasa Lwakabemba?
Yes, gladly. The Lukasa Lwakabemba is a form of a coded or symbolic way of relaying information. To read the Lukasa Lwankunda, coded or symbolic way of relaying information. To read the Lukasa Lwankunda, you only had to learn ABC, so to speak. But in order to read the Lukasa Lwakabemba, it was necessary that you learn more than 18 symbols.
That's 80 symbols telling nuanced information.
Yeah. So the Lukasa Lwakabemba would have a graphic incision, graving, and object on it, oftentimes pearls, nails, fetters, and beads of different materials like plastic, metal, or glass. All of these objects would be meanings dependent on how many subcategories the object unique characteristic could fall under.
I guess that's where the concept of mnemonics comes in, right? The idea of ascribing data to objects. Frances Yates, in her book The Art of Memory, explains someone wishes to remember to a series of locations or objects in the case of the Baluba, and then using the objects as visual cues to help remember the embedded information. But some people have noted some issues with using European concepts to define foreign theoretical phenomena. Would you argue that there is a problem in foreign theoretical phenomena? Would you argue that there is a problem with that, Kenge?
I think without disregarding the nuances that are present in the concept of mnemonic by Europeans and that active in the design and the use of the Lukasa, the concepts are one and the same really. The things of the Lukasa, the concepts are one and the same really. The thing which distinguish the Baluba variant of the word is the step they took by creating memory, a physical.
Yes. In a way, the Baluba took the step to make the intangible, that is thoughts and data and information, tangible into 3D objects on the board. In fact, we can argue further actually and say that the Baluba did not only make intangible data tangible in 3D, they also made it in 4D by embedding in the very nature of the Lukasalwa Kabemba the element of performance. And here I'm talking about the beats of the drums, the song, the prompts the mbudye or the audience to perform when they're recalling the events embedded within it. All of this enables the Lukasa to step into the realm of the experiential, I feel. Dr. Allen dwelt on this in our conversation. He said the ingenuity of the Lukasa in its conception as this all-encompassing tool itself through the performance it inspires is unmatched. I remember when I first did my initial reading on them, the first time I saw them, I had lots of questions. But the key question above all came to me after reading Dr. Marian Allen's book, and it was in chapter 4 specifically. These historians said that the general arrangement plan of the dwellings of the monarchy and their officials. The book mentioned further that when designing, specific design principles were used. And this language sounded very architectural to me as a student of architecture. The obvious question came then, which was, what are the design principles or rules? And also, how do these rules actually assist in the remembering of the memories? It's these questions which fueled my research and prompted the making of this podcast, really. With yours and others' help, I've been able to understand as many principles as have been accessible to me, and I'm excited that we can reveal and share 20 principles right after the break. Welcome back to Heritage Explored with me, Irene Ilunga, and my guest, Kabwende Kienge Kisoke. I'm very excited for this final segment of the show, where we'll be looking in depth at some of the rules and principles visible on the Lukasalwa Kabemba. Before the break, Kienge gave us an introductory history of the Guardians of Baluba History, the Mbudye Secret Society, of which he is a member. Kienge all types of Lukasa used by the society, which were the Lukasalwa Nkunda and Lukasalwa Kabemba. We acknowledge that the Lukasalwa Nkunda is the wooden tablet where written information was inscribed, and we also briefly defined the Lukasalwa Kabemba as a wooden mnemonic tool composed of embedded which are all assigned specific historical data or narratives. These objects are positioned to display a pictograph embedded with information. In this segment of our talk, we want to take a deeper dive into the Lukasalwa Kabemba as a means of answering some of the initial questions that I had about the Lukasalwa. Namely, are there principles and design rules used in the fabrication of the Lukasa, and how do these relate to the memory which the Lukasa archives? Kienge will walk us through some of the rules he has been permitted by the Brotherhood to reveal to us regarding the Lukasa. Which are evident on the political Lukasa. And I want to be specifically clear on that this is about the political Lukasa, because there are different types. And with the different types, there are different rules. So in here, in the political Lukasa, you outlined to me 20 principles. And the first one, which you mentioned, was on the outset that when you have a political Lukasa like this, there are two sort of histories that are being recorded on these Lukasas. We have the histories which have to do with internal affairs and histories to do with international relations or international affairs. To separate the two, we have the board in the middle, right? Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Okay, thank you. As you just said, we have the political Lukasas, and how we recognize that this is political. It's like agriculture Lukasa. First of all, as you see here, the way it's down, or show us that you have two ends here. Second, the way that it is separated in the middle. If you count from yourself, you find that it is in the middle. The meta, it does allow us to, and because the information that which is inside here, it is 100% political message.
Right.
As you said, we have the internal affairs that I was dealing with Kongolomamba, with his nephew Kayalunga and his brother-in-law Mbidikilwe, that will come after. So we're dealing with political, and we have, as you said yourself, 20 principles that allow us to identify or to read it more, because there's no. By looking at it, what did you see? Nothing.
Yeah, we don't. We can't really understand.
Nothing.
Yeah, we don't. We can't really understand what's going on unless we know those principles.
Unless you know that principles that will allow us to see what the problem is and which is stories are there.
Yeah, you said that when you're looking at the Lukasa, you look at it more like as you would look at a map, in the sense where it's orientated. We have the north side of the top here, east, south, and west, and even the different places and the different villages or towns and cities that are on the Lukasa are positioned exactly as how they would appear on the map. Am I right?
Yeah, you are right. The people who made the Lukasa.
Right?
Yeah, you are right. The people who made the Lukasa, they must respect position.
The orientation.
North, west, and south, and east. Because if they make the maker of Lukasa mislead the people, misdisplace, I don't know, Kinyengele, it will be difficult for us to read it, and it will be very difficult to translate the message.
The meanings.
The meaning of the message, what is inside Lukasa. The principle of orientation, we can find it to all of Lukasa's type. But talking about political Lukasa,
right,
that is very, very important. In the first one, we have to look before to start.
I see. And now just to move on, when you see the Lukasa straight away, you can see these incisions here.
Yeah.
Incisions. And these incisions are outlining that we're starting a new story or you're beginning a new chapter.
No, it's not chapters and narratives.
Narratives.
Stories, yeah. So, for example, here, how we were able to identify that we have the first story here. Because as I told you last time when we have a chance to talk about it, because we have season here, first this allows us to identify that the story have
ended, but also that there's a new story that's beginning.
The narrative, let's say it's like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3.
Right.
So, but everything is connected. It's like today we are writing. You have first paragraph, second, third, but it is the same paper, but different paragraph that different ideas.
Ideas, yes.
We have different ideas. Which is separated.
And it's these incisions that separate those ideas. Yeah. And when you were talking, you touched on this bead here representing Kongolo Mwamba, and
His capital.
and the capital,
Mwibele.
and the group of beads representing Mwibele, the capital where he reigned, and the ancient capital of the Baluba nation. And how we know this is by the rule that each individual bead actually represents a person or a role.
See, each means he as function represent a political position
Or political
or
position.
persons. Okay,
Mhm.
so always
Political
or
position.
persons. Okay,
Mhm.
so always one of the principles that we use for to write in Lukasa,
Mhm.
the red represent Kongolo Mwamba.
Right, because the
Or-
colors in the Lukata are very
It's
important.
That is the most principles that we use.
Right.
Listen. To write it, the colors. Listen. To write it, the colors that because the red always represent
Kongolo Mwamba.
Kongolo Mwamba.
Yeah.
But how are we going to know that this is Kongolo Mwamba? Because if you see here, we have another red. We can find different.
Other reds, we
Yeah.
have one here.
But how are we different?
Other reds, we
Yeah.
have one here.
But how are we going to recognize this is he represents because when Kongolo he always represents in the middle of his officials.
Mm-hmm.
So as you see, we are in Mwibele is surrounding by his officers, surrounding by his officers that represent him. So and those officers always have been represented by bronze color.
Brown beads.
Brown beads.
So there we already have the fourth rule.
Yeah.
I could say the fourth rule. We have that each person we could
Yeah.
say, and the third group. Fourth. Where am I? The fifth rule. There we have that the size is important,
Yeah.
and there are three main sizes, I suppose, we have on the board. We have a regular size, which is the ones you can see this.
Yeah.
And then we have the larger size, which is beads like these.
That means that the biggest one,
The biggest one
the
on the
higher
board,
position,
the size represents authority.
the authority,
Or
and who was the person during the time when this political laws were made.
yeah, Kongolo Mwamba was the most authoritative,
So his beast must be
the biggest.
the biggest.
Mhm.
It's like today, when there is a minister who visits somewhere with his ministers, how the chair will be represented.
It's the largest.
The chair will be represented.
It's the largest
Yeah.
chair in the room,
Yeah,
or the most decorated
Yeah.
chair.
to represent his authorities.
Hmm.
It's the same thing that we're using here.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
So, this we are going to, as you see, we have again Midikilue. If you see it's white, and as is white is too big, more than others, whiteness here.
Because and that's how we identify him. We identify him
Yeah.
because the white bead. First of all, the color
Yeah.
tells us that he's
Yeah.
he's Mbiji Kilue.
Because always in Midikilue
The
and
color and the
sun,
size.
white.
Right.
But as white is always been is present dominated in Lokasa,
Mhm.
how are we going to identify this is Ilunga
Ilungambiji
and this is not Ilungambiji?
by the
It's
size.
the size and the middle. They are always in the middle,
Hmm.
surrounded by his official of you in Lukasa. First, you have to identify the beast who is the biggest.
Mhm.
First of it. Look which how many colors we have.
We have.
If you have, because most of the time we use 4 colors:
Mhm.
white, black, red, and
Brown.
brown.
Right.
So the black represents things that is negativity or someone who is bad.
Someone who has a negative connotation. to it.
Connotation.
And you can see an example here.
Yeah.
He has the power to kill or destroy you.
Is it his job to
To kill you.
protect
Okay.
the road to place where
Okay.
Kongolo was initiated?
Okay.
So you may have authorization from Mwibele or from other
Area.
area branch to go to visit the Kongolomamba place where he was initiated.
Right.
But when you come here, he was initiated.
Right.
But when you come here, he doesn't trust you. He will not lose his time searching if you are saying
you
truth
are
or
who
not.
you say you are.
Directly, if you have a bad chance, he will kill you.
Right. Now we've touched on quite a few things, quite a few of the rules that I have numbered here. Basically, all the rules that the group of rules that we wanted to talk about, which is the rules to do with colors, and you said that the red, one of the rules, the red represents Kongolo Mwamba and anyone who's affiliated with him, and anyone who's affiliated with him. And then we have the brown, which is representative of all the officials or anyone who holds a political title. And then we have white, the large white representing Bijikilue. And then we also have the large blue as well, which unfortunately has dropped off of this board. But it would be here. And this would be representing Kalala Ilunga. So Bijikilue here came to Muibele and married Kongolo Mwamba's sister Bulanda, and she Bulanda lived here in this quarter of the city, and she gave birth to Kalala Ilunga, the nephew of Kongolo Mwamba. And when Kalala Ilunga grew in popularity and grew in strength, Secretary General, Kongolo Mwamba felt jealous of Kalala and was scared that he would come and usurp his power.
No, because people, when Kalala grew up, Kongolo was too eldest, okay?
Right.
So
he was very old.
He was very old, and the people preferred him, Kalala more than him. Right. He went to his father's land, where his father gave him an great army, and he came back to go direct to attack Muibele or
Kongolo Mwamba.
And the guy of Kongolo Mwamba, he ran away from his capital. He went to Kai Masengo. And
he hid in a cave there.
Yeah, there was a cave there where he hid himself. Unfortunately, his sisters betrayed him, and the soldiers of Kalala were able to find where he was, and they killed him. So since there, the place where he was killed is kept by some guardian who is in red.
And this is
one.
Here, right here.
At the same time, the person who killed the place, and at the same time it is. And at the same time, it is the place where Kongolo was killed. Here, the red represents the blood of Kongolo Mwamba. So if you see, then
you can already see there the layers of information that's within one specific deed. So here we have the representation of the guardian, who's guard, and the color is not only representing the affiliation to Kongolo Mwamba, but also the blood.
Then the red one also sometimes it represents someone who is bad.
Okay.
That is bad in terms that the person who is very cruel. So the red here, as you said, it depends of the context, the stuff of the story,
the narrative.
Because if there is no full stop here, it will be complicated for anybody member
to understand
the political Lukasa.
Very interesting. And yes, you have also the black, as we said, black representing somebody who has a negative connotation. White on the international affairs side, the medium size actually representing the Bitobo or a Kitobo, who, when translated, is a priest, a religious person.
You see, it's like Christian faith, where you have Christian faith, where you have prophets.
Prophets, yeah.
But also, they have their own prophets. So the last one that is well recognized for everyone is, we call him Kulu Wamaninga. This prophet Maninga. This prophet, he prophesied that one day the greatest enemy of Baluba were coming to destroy our land because people were killed them who?
Kongolo Mwamba.
For that punishment.
The punishment for killing Kongolo Mwamba. The punishment for killing Kongolo Mwamba.
There will be
was the curse or the coming of the enemies.
The enemies and those enemies were going. They will be more
stronger
than us.
They will dominate the land.
Yeah.
And because of this prophecy, the Baluba people. The Baluba people and the Bitobo or the priests understood the enemies or in the prophecy as being the Europeans.
According to the prophecy, says that one day Bingele will come.
Okay.
The same in Kiluba.
Bingele. That's the exact word the prophecy uses.
Bingele.
And this.
Okay.
So say that whole phrase again.
Bingele bakeyanga ne bwato ebwondesha muntu inoko abwondeshanga ne kisungu ne balwe mukamunwa buhika.
Okay.
It means that one day the group of Bingele, English people call them Anglais.
In French.
Bingele. If you understand, second proof, he said that they were coming with bwato. How can you say this? Le bateau.
Boat.
Le boat, in which the person without any conductor.
Okay.
And when the slavery came in Africa, they came with what?
With boats.
With boats, and it was made by. It was said it was happening. So when Bito was understood that in the border of Angola, where Europeans who were taking slavery people to slavery, they so now what the prophet says is true. What the prophet says is true. Therefore, they have organized the resistance.
Okay, right.
So to come back to what I told you, the position, the orientation. If you have the spine that is looking in direction.
Right. No, do you mean the spear?
Direction.
Right. No, do you mean the spear?
Yeah, the spear is
where is the spear?
We have here spear here.
Okay. There you have it. And this is one of the rules that we have, where when you look at this, you see as you're moving around the Lukasa or making the Lukasa move around. You see certain images on the board which tell you the essence of the message. And this is one that you've identified right here, which is, if you look at it carefully from my side, actually, you can see that it is like a spear, or even an arrow, in the bow and arrow, which represents
the army to defend against enemy.
Okay.
And the enemy is represented by black.
The enemies are represented by black. And you see the line of black. Okay.
And you draw it yourself.
That V, that.
Yeah, but look, what of the thing that is different to V? Is a knife.
A knife, okay.
This all by turning your Lukasa board, you will understand the message.
Right.
Understand? He will have knife, and also the use of a knife
to kill. So it's now, bloodshed.
You have another color here which represents
enslavers. Enslaved people.
Enslaved people. So in our society, that is true. We used to have slaves, neighbors where they didn't have forces, so we took them as our slaves. So when we want to represent them in the use,
I like blue color.
When you see this color, it means those people are slaves.
Okay.
If you have the geographical Lukasa, and you see, like here we have this Inyangele, but it's made by this. You understand the village where slaves are.
Right, and you've touched on a good.
Where slaves are.
Right, and you've touched on a good point there, because we didn't really clarify it at the beginning. But when you see, anytime you see a bead or a group of beads encircled,
is a place.
It's representing a place.
Yeah.
This could be a village, it could be a city, a town,
or can it represent a lake?
A lake. It could be a city, a town,
or can it represent a lake?
A lake. Okay.
Depend on which context. But here, as we are talking about political affairs, you have Kinyangele and the place where Bitovo were taking their meeting for, because their way is now to mobilize Baluba to prepare. Their way is now to mobilize Baluba to prepare them to the resistance against
the enemy
of Europeans. We thank God, Europeans, they were not able to take us as a slave. The slave didn't concern Baluba. There's no enemy who was able to enter in the land.
Okay.
Why? Because between us and the sea, there is people. Why? Because between us and the sea, there is people who called Lunda people.
Lunda people, okay.
Yes. So when the Europeans came, started
Attacking
people,
and enslaving.
there was an information that was sent directly to Muibele that the people
have come.
So from there was a resistance. They bought the country and was getting out.
And this is one of
this is Abito. So
these are all Bito or priests.
Yeah, priests
who were soldiers who were keeping the frontier, the boundary of the Baluba land.
Yeah.
And amongst these people who were keeping the boundary were the enslaved. And now just going back to the arrangement, we have also not only these beads along the border representing some sort of soldier, but we also have just beads in a row which represent a road or a path or a route. And then we have beads such as these ones, which you said they're not very clearly lined, but this, and when you have beads and lined like this,
you need to multiply. Yeah.
And how many times would you multiply this by?
So how many times you can multiply? You can multiply by 2 or by 3 according to the line that the person will put.
Right.
If you write, for example, 1, 2, 4.
Right.
If you write, for example, 1, 2, 3.
And because there's another one there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You multiply it by 4.
And if you have here 1, 2, 3, multiply by 3. So after multiplication, you find the number of people were here.
You were there. In our conversation, sometimes you said that this would represent not only the number of people who are there, but in the sense where the true number, or it could also represent the groups of people that were there.
So because it's what the person, maybe if there were 15 person, you can't put the
15 different beads.
Because, not to the true number, but to estimate how many people would be there.
I see. And I think with that, we've covered actually all of the points. And I think it's a good thing if we do a quick summary of what we've just said with regards to principles.
Okay. For the summary, first, as we want to understand here that we have the red that will represent Congo. Behind you, another white, represent Irene Ilunga and his father, who is Ilidi. Then the most important here, don't forget, is orientation. According to the 4 Nikeuru,
the 4 cardinals.
Yeah, cardinals. That is west, north, and east, and south. So when the Lucas is not doesn't respect the orientation, it means the Lucas is fake. The person who did it
doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, so that is fake. The second principle, as we have told about, white here represent Bitobo
or priests.
Priests, okay, and Kinyang, which is the place where Bamboje take the meeting. Okay. And the Kinyang always is near a lake or near a river.
Okay. Do
you understand? And the white color represent perfection, represent it positivity for Baluba people. Black is negativity. Red is for bravery. But when we have it in the keyboard here, it represents Kongolomamba or some people who have the character
of Kongolomamba or somebody who's affiliated.
Yeah, and here to finish, here we have this color which represents who? Slave people.
Yeah, the light blue. Wow. See all those to remember the insightful memories of the Baluba. By a real member of the Mbuji society, it has been truly a joy. I really look forward to following your journey in Kenya and finding out more about the Baluba as the Brotherhood continues to allow the revelation of more of this information. I eagerly anticipate them because to certain aspects of their fellowship to corroborate data from the source. Or better to go to the source and check for ourselves as the Baluba say it.
I can't wait to show you more interesting information on our nation and the heritage we have.
That Kenya. And to our viewers and listeners at home, it's been great to have you alongside us. We hope we've challenged your thoughts and inspired a sense of curiosity. Stay tuned for another episode of Heritage Explored. Until next time, bye.